to today's video. In today's video, I'll be discussing the best ticket the Democrats can run in 2024. I guess the ticket that they have the best chance of winning with. This video will probably be short. Also, sorry if there's thunder in the background. There's currently a storm where I live. So yeah. Also, once again, sorry if the video's short. It probably will be. But there are essentially three Democrats that I think would be strong Democrats, and these three are interchangeable on here. Of course, other than Joe Biden, these are three of the more obvious people. They're obviously Democrats that I think could do very well. I think that Sherrod Brown could do very well. I think that Tammy Baldwin would do very well. There are Democrats that I think could do well. Michael Bennett is one that's very random that I just thought of. I think he could do very well because he could do very well with moderates. Maybe even get some crossover Republican support. He would struggle to raise turnout though. I mean, like, he's kind of exciting, so that could be something for him. But these three Democrats are Andrew Yang, Beto O'Rourke, and Pete Buttigieg. Now, we've only seen two in elections. That is Buttigieg and O'Rourke. To the extent of my knowledge, I don't believe Andrew Yang's been in any elections other than obviously the presidential election and the current New York City mayoral election, which I think he'll win. I mean, like, I don't follow mayoral elections even where I live, but I would just assume that Yang would win. But looking at this, these three are three that are very strong, and like I said, they're interchangeable. So I'll go get started. I'll go get started with Buttigieg. Now, Buttigieg, and among four demographic groups that I typically tend to look at whenever I want to look at this, I guess two or three, sorry. Because suburban voters, white working class voters, and then typically I like to do black voters and Hispanic and Latino voters. But I mean, like, I guess we could also throw in other minority groups and just say racial minority voters. And Buttigieg, I think, in the suburbs, I mean, he's been a strong candidate. We go look at his South Bend performances. He won, I think these are precincts, every single precinct in the state, or in the, city, I guess. We don't have a precinct map over here, however, we do have these results. He won 73.85% of the vote. The incumbent before him only won 62.14%, so he overperformed the incumbent by over 10%. And yes, there was a libertarian candidate, but even if you throw all these libertarian votes, it's about 26% of the vote. That they still underperformed by about 11%. So Buttigieg was obviously a very strong candidate, and we go look at 2015, he got 80% of the vote, winning every single precinct, outperforming. Excuse me, what's forward? My bad. Outperforming. So we go look at 2015, outperforming his predecessor, James Mueller, who lost, city district, lost whatever, I guess, city district that is. I'm not an expert when it comes to South Bend politics, but, he did clearly very well. But we go look at 2020, I don't have any polls currently pulled up, but he was notoriously a strong candidate for the white working class. I think that that's a big, big plus for him. He would be very strong in the Rust Belt. I think he would be an overall really good candidate for the Rust Belt. But when I look at the suburbs, I mean, like, he's average, I guess. He's not, like, phenomenal in the suburbs. I think that he claimed to be a moderate. I don't think he's a moderate. I also don't think he's, like, a progressive. I think he's, and this is going to sound really weird, but a progressive moderate, which I know it sounds very strange, but he's fairly progressive in some ways, but he's also fairly moderate in other ways, and he criticized moderates. I actually just watched a clip today where he was criticizing progressives for essentially saying that they're going to polarize the nation even more, while criticizing moderates, saying that there's no way to win Republican voters by sounding like Republicans, or that's not going to work. So he has criticized both. I think that his policies would actually be very strong with the white working class. And then the suburbs, like I said, not amazing. I mean, like, he'd be all right. I think that he would be pretty good, though, just considering the fact that he is kind of traditional. His big weakness lies with minority voters. He did awfully among minority voters in the 2020 midterms, he was polling at like 0% or something. I remember watching an SNL sketch where they made fun of it. But he was doing horribly among minority voters. I think that if he were the Democratic nominee, a lot of these minority voters might not like him, but they would rather split for him than split for the Republicans. So they would vote for him. I also think that if he picks a strong candidate for minorities like Beto O'Rourke, or a strong candidate for minorities, like Stacey Abrams, if he were to pick her, he would do phenomenally among minorities. So there's Pete Buttigieg. Next up, Beto O'Rourke. We can go look at area type. This is in 2018, mind you. In urban areas, not only did he outperform Joe Biden, Biden only won by 14%, he won by 18%, but he also outperformed Clinton, who only won by 11%. Another big one, the suburbs. He only lost by 11%. Biden, who we all know that he was a much better suburban candidate than Trump. We all know that Trump was an awful suburban candidate. Biden only lost him by Biden lost him by 16%. He still overperformed him, and then Hillary Clinton lost him by 21%. But then we go look at race. I actually haven't looked at racial polls. I would just assume that Beto would have overperformed them. But also he did overperform in rural areas. He only lost the rural areas by like 39%, which is really something. I mean, like, you would expect for Beto to do that, I guess. But we look at this. Among white voters, Hillary lost white voters by 43%. Biden lost white voters by 33%. And Beto lost white voters by 32%. So I think he slightly overperformed Biden. Among black voters, he won by 88%. So he did underperform, or excuse me, actually overperformed him. Excuse me. Biden only won black voters by 81%. O'Rourke won white voters, 78%. So he did underperform Biden among black voters very narrowly. And against Clinton, she also did pretty poorly, although he overperformed her. And then we go look at Hispanic and Latino voters. Beto won, excuse me, I just got an email, I don't know if you could hear that. Beto O'Rourke won Hispanic and Latino voters by, I believe, 29%. We go look at Biden, who won them by 17%. And then Clinton, who only won them by 27%. So we already know he's a fairly strong minority candidate. Excuse me, let me go reply to that email. Sorry, that was my advanced chemistry teacher. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Beto is obviously a strong candidate for minority voters. We've already seen that. He's also a strong candidate for suburban voters. Some of this might be because he was against Ted Cruz, who was very unpopular, yada yada. But still, Beto is a strong candidate for these voters. And Andrew Yang, I've actually recently made a prediction between him and Donald Trump. But as I said, Yang is, excuse me, give me a second. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, like I was saying, Beto O'Rourke is clearly a strong candidate for minority voters. We know this. He's also a strong candidate in the suburbs. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Andrew Yang is he's a strong candidate in the Rust Belt. I think that his fairly progressive policies would be very popular in the Rust Belt. We've already seen progressives do very well in the Rust Belt among the white working class. Sherrod Brown, Tom Wolf, Tammy Baldwin, Pete Buttigieg, if you can consider him progressive, Bernie Sanders. These people are very, very popular, or their policies are very, very popular in this region. So I think that Andrew Yang is clearly a strong candidate for these regions. Among minority voters and suburban voters, he's pretty average for a Democrat. I wouldn't say that he's like Stacey Abrams with minority voters, or that he's Kamala Harris with suburban voters, but he's not like Joe Biden with minority voters. He's an average candidate for a lot of these voters. So I think that these three would be very strong, especially if the only scenario, one person that we could throw in there is, and this would be in a specific scenario, Stacey Abrams, if Buttigieg were to run, because I think he would have trouble turning out minorities. But if Abrams was his running mate, it would not be a problem. Sorry if you see the little notification in the top right corner. You can probably see the very bottom of it. Sorry about that. Anyways, so those three are ultimately the Democrats' best chance right now in 2024. I may make a video like this for the Republicans. I'm trying to think. I mean, like, I know for the Democrats, probably their worst possible ticket would be like Joe Manchin and Kamala Harris, because Manchin wouldn't get any Democratic support whatsoever, but he also wouldn't be able to get any Republican support because, I mean, like, he's an incumbent in West Virginia, so yes, he did well, but if you're a Republican, who would you rather split for? Joe Manchin or, like, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis? And then Kamala Harris is just a weak white working class voter or candidate. She would do well in the suburbs, I guess, but they would have to run someone who's awful in the suburbs as her VP. Or just Joe Manchin, because he just wouldn't be able to get... Actually, well, no, Joe Manchin could actually do this one in the white working class. So it could actually be a really good ticket now that I think about it. I doubt it, though. And I also doubt that she would pick Manchin. But yeah, that's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Stay tuned for my next video, and I'll see you all there. Bye!